Before we begin, this story involves a fire that killed 146 people, many of them teenagers. It includes descriptions of people jumping from a burning building. If that's something you need to step away from, we understand. Take care of yourself first. Jetta Lubitz was on the 9th floor when she smelled smoke. She didn't hear an alarm. There wasn't one. Nobody called. There was no phone on her floor. The first warning she got was the fire itself, already rolling across the ceiling. She turned toward the stairwell door and pushed. It didn't move. It was locked from the outside. You're listening to The Unlit Room. Every story in here actually happened. That's the part that should scare you. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Today, a Saturday afternoon in Manhattan. 500 workers, a fire, and every way out blocked. March 25, 1911. The Ash Building sits at the corner of Washington Place and Green Street in Greenwich Village. 10 stories of steel and stone, one of the newest buildings in the neighborhood. The top 3 floors belong to the Triangle Shirtwaist Company, one of the largest garment shops in New York. Inside, roughly 500 workers, mostly young women, mostly teenagers, mostly recent immigrants from Italy and Eastern Europe, are finishing a Saturday shift, sewing the women's blouses called shirtwaists that are the fashion of the moment. At around 4:40 in the afternoon, something catches fire in a scrap bin beneath a cutting table on the 8th floor. The bin is stuffed with fabric trimmings, 2 months' worth, hundreds of pounds of cotton scraps packed together like kindling. The cutters on this floor are known to sneak cigarettes. They exhale through their lapels to hide the smoke. Smoking is banned, but nobody enforces it. The fire moves fast, cotton scraps, tissue paper patterns hanging on lines above the tables, bolts of fabric stacked floor to ceiling. The 8th floor is fuel. A bookkeeper on the 8th floor picks up the phone and calls the 10th floor. The owners are up there, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, the men who run Triangle. They get the warning. They make it to the roof. They survive. But the 8th floor bookkeeper can't call the 9th floor. There is no phone on the 9th floor. There is no fire alarm in the building. There is no sprinkler system. The 9th floor, where 150 workers are bent over their sewing machines, gets no warning at all. The Ash Building was marketed as fireproof when it opened in 1901, and in a narrow technical sense, it was. The steel frame survived, the floors held, the building is still standing today. It's the people inside who burned. Micro cliffhanger 1. But the fire wasn't the worst part. The workers could have survived the fire if they could have gotten out. There was one more thing they didn't know. The doors behind them were locked. The Triangle Shirtwaist Company locked its stairwell and exit doors from the outside during working hours. Management said it was to prevent theft. Workers' bags were checked at the end of every shift, and the locked doors forced everyone out through a single exit where supervisors could inspect them. It was also to prevent unauthorized breaks. The owners wanted control over when people left the floor. When the fire reached the 9th floor, workers ran for the exits and found them sealed. One door, opened onto a narrow stairwell. It was immediately overwhelmed. Some workers made it to the fire escape, a thin iron structure bolted to the exterior of the building. It was never designed for this. Dozens of people crowded onto it at once. The iron buckled. The fire escape twisted away from the building and collapsed, sending everyone on it plunging into the courtyard below. Others broke windows and looked down. They were 8 and 9 stories up. There was nothing below them but sidewalk. It's worth pausing here to understand something about fire protection in 1911. The building code in New York did not require sprinklers in buildings classified as fireproof. It did not require fire alarms. It did not require that exit doors remain unlocked during business hours. Everything that was about to happen was technically legal. Micro cliffhanger 2. Down on Washington Place, fire engines were already arriving. The crowd watched the firefighters extend their tallest ladder. It reached the 6th floor. The fire was on the 8th and 9th. There was only one way down, and 62 of them took it. What started the fire has never been settled with certainty. The fire marshal concluded it was most likely a discarded cigarette. The cutters smoked in secret. The scrap bin was full, and one careless flick would have been enough. But not everyone accepted that explanation. Collier's magazine and the Insurance Monitor pointed to something else. Max Blank and Isaac Harris had filed 4 previous fire insurance claims on their businesses. Shirtwaists were falling out of fashion. The inventory on those floors was worth more destroyed than sold. According to these reports, the fire looked less like an accident and more like a pattern. No arson evidence was found by investigators. But the insurance history raised a question that was never fully answered: whether the fire that killed 146 people was bad luck or good timing for the men who owned the building. On the sidewalk, people watched workers appear in the windows. Some stood on the ledges for a long time before they jumped. Some held hands, some went alone. 62 people fell from the 8th and 9th floors that afternoon. The fire department had spread nets below, the standard safety nets of the era designed to catch a person falling 2 or 3 stories. The workers were falling from 8 and 9. The nets ripped apart on the first impact. They were useless after that. Frances Perkins was 31 years old. She was a social worker standing on Washington Place when the first person appeared in the window. She watched. She couldn't look away. She'd remember this day for the rest of her life. By 5:15, the fire was out. 146 people were dead, 123 women and girls, 23 men. Most were between 14 and 23 years old. On April 11, 1911, a grand jury indicted Max Blank and Isaac Harris on charges of first- and second-degree manslaughter. The prosecution's case was straightforward. They locked the doors, the workers couldn't escape. 146 people died. On December 27, 1911, 9 months after the fire, the jury acquitted them. Both men, all charges. The defense argued the owners didn't know the doors were locked. The jury believed them. __break_3, A9 81842 __. 2 years later, Max Blank was caught locking the doors at his new factory. He was fined $20. Frances Perkins never forgot what she saw on Washington Place. 22 years later, Franklin Roosevelt appointed her Secretary of Labor, the first woman to serve in a presidential cabinet. She helped write the New Deal. She helped create Social Security. She helped build the labor protections that define the American workplace. When people asked her why, she pointed back to this day. March 25, 1911, a Saturday afternoon. 500 workers behind locked doors. The Ash Building still stands at the corner of Washington Place and Green Street. NYU uses it now. There's a plaque on the wall. The workers are still dead. The doors were still locked, and the men who locked them paid $20. If this one kept you up tonight, good. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Subscribe so the next one finds you too. Follow the Unlit Room wherever you listen. Tell a friend, but maybe don't tell them it's all real until after they've finished. Full story on the main channel. Follow if you're wide awake. That was the Unlit Room. See you in the dark.